Welcome to the Date Forever podcast. Keep your relationship fueled up with strategies discovered by couples and experts. Because at Fuel Collective, we believe better relationships will equal a better world. You are about to discover specific insights and tools that cost little or nothing to implement to help you date forever. And now, here are your hosts, a couple who always have a half-packed suitcase and a date night in the calendar, Sammy and Nathan Yeager.
Welcome to the Date Forever podcast. In today's episode, we're talking all about the honeymoon stage of your relationship, the keys to managing conflict with your partner, the importance of knowing your core values, and the power of having uncompromising date nights. Now let's get into it.
Welcome to the Date Forever podcast, everyone. Today we've got Anya and Dim. Anya is a female leadership coach and founder of Female Frontier, an organization dedicated to empowering women to advance their careers and in their relationships. Dim is an ex-army officer turned men's coach who specializes in helping men break through stagnation and find clarity, direction, and purpose. Welcome to the podcast, guys.
Thank you.
Yay!
Thanks for having us.
Honestly, thank you for having us.
Before we go any further, you two are recently red hot engaged.
Oh my God.
That's right.
Congratulations.
That's right.
The weekend that just passed.
Friday.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Woohoo! Congratulations. We love love.
Yeah.
So maybe we start right there. How long have you guys been together?
1 year, 9 months, and probably like 3 weeks.
A handful of days. That's very specific.
Not counting at all.
And how did the big question pop?
That's a
Well,
nice question.
the big question, him asking me to be his future wife.
As in, how did we come to the conclusion that we want to get married, or like how did
he do
literally
it?
propose?
Well, maybe it's both. Maybe it's, did you have a conversation before getting engaged? But then how did you actually ask her?
Great question.
So I think let's answer the first question,
Yep.
which is
Go for it.
how did we know that we wanted to be together permanently? And I think it was something that we were speaking about like a year ago, maybe even longer.
Yeah, I mean, I think longer. Like, I think that, well, for myself, I think within like 3 weeks of meeting Anna, like I knew that she was the one. And I met her when I was 29, and I've dated, like girls before that, but I never really had that knowing feeling. And that kind of came to me about 3 weeks in, and everyone had told me that, but until you finally experience it, it's a weird thing to say. And I think as time went on and I realized that she felt the same about me, at that time we were talking about, well, I'd like to get married in 5 years, and blah, blah, blah. And then we started to have conversations like that. And as we went on, I think once the I love yous were said, then it was pretty easy to talk about, maybe getting engaged next year and then getting married in 5 years. That's kind of how we've been.
Yeah.
Would you?
Yeah, I agree. And I think I knew from like the moment that I met him that he was the one. He was a very special person in my life.
So romantic.
It took him a little longer to, come around, but he eventually did. And I overheard him actually having a conversation with his friend saying, like, man, she's the one. And I had never experienced that before. And I never even really thought about it. I had been in previous relationships before, but it was not something that I was like, he's the one. And with Dim, I just felt that knowingness. I felt that certainty. I felt that safety. I felt that like I was just super inspired to lead a life alongside him. And again, having previously been in long-term relationships, I never really gave much thought to the concept of marriage. But with Dim, it was just such an exciting prospect. And so we had been speaking about it for a long, long, long time. And then it was just a beautiful moment because I didn't want anything elaborate. I didn't want anything over the top. I wanted us just to have a moment that was meaningful and special and unique to us. And so he proposed like 2 minutes from the place that we had our first date in Milson's Point. It's a place called Wendy's Secret Garden. And I had no idea. Like I had an idea that he was going to propose this year because bless him, he can't keep a secret.
I felt like I was cheating on her, like with the ring. I really did because we're very close. And so she knows, she would know beyond a shadow of a doubt if I'm holding something from her. So
he never explicitly said that he had a ring and he was going to propose, but he's like, I'm doing something. It's so exciting. I wish I could tell you, but I can't. I put two and two together, and I was like, well,
Had a bit of an inkling.
I had a bit of an inkling. But on this particular night, Dim told me that we were going to meet a friend for dinner, and his friend was bringing along a new girlfriend. And so my mind was completely elsewhere, and I was like, well, who is this girl? And so preoccupied with that. And Dim was playing it really cool, but retrospectively, I now realize he was probably really nervous or just like thinking about everything. And I was just the chattery one. And we went for a walk along sort of where we live, along the water up to Wendy's Secret Garden. And there was his setup, which was like beautiful and special and meaningful. And of course, as soon as he started proposing, I was excited and I was just like, oh my gosh, and that just started bawling my eyes out. But yeah, it was a really, really special moment.
It sounds like you did well though and had the element of surprise even if you knew it was coming or thought it was coming.
Dude, and as surely we've all seen and people listening have seen with their own plans, like, so I had this 1 hour window where I told her I was hanging with friends to go to the place to set up. And at the time, she's like, oh, who are you hanging out with? And I said, oh, it's these two friends. And she was like, oh my God, I want to hang with them too. I want to talk to them. And I'm like, yeah, they can't come. And so I had this 1 hour window. I got to the location, and 5 minutes before that, these two other girls were there, and they were setting up for another proposal in the location that I wanted to propose.
Hot territory.
Yeah, and I was like, and then I tried to like gently suss out, what time is this person coming? Like, I'm seeing maybe I can leverage their decorations, and anyway, pulled it together. Yeah.
Something similar happened to friends of ours where they jumped in a hot air balloon and got down on one knee and proposed, and then a couple minutes later the other couple in the hot air balloon jumped down on one knee, and then there was the third couple, and I just imagine the pressure that guy must have been feeling, like that 2 out of 3 couples in this hot air balloon dropping to one knee.
Or maybe the girl was like, no, I'm not ready yet.
Please don't.
That's funny.
Hey, so before we talk more about the two of you as a couple and in this beautiful love bubble that you're in, I'd love to know a little bit more about you as individual human beings and doings. Anya, tell us a little bit about how you got into this coaching and empowerment space.
So I've been working for myself for the past 3 years now. Prior to this, I was working in social media and digital marketing, working alongside predominantly doctors and psychologists. And I recognized the space that I loved working in most was when I was client-facing, working one-on-one with my clients, allowing them to really step into their confident self, helping them present better, helping them to articulate the message with certainty. And, I met Dim 2018, November 2nd.
Yep.
And at that point, I was still in social media and digital marketing, working for myself. Dim then ended up leaving his job in May of the next year to start working in sort of life coaching and leadership coaching. And him going ahead and doing something like that gave me the inspiration that I needed to go, you know what? Why am I settling for a job that working for myself where I'm only 20% of the time excited by that? Why can't I step into the space where I'm excited to do what I do 80% of the time or 100% of the time? And so I ended up leaving all of my clients, or like saying goodbye to them, and then going all into coaching January of this year. And so now I work all with women to sort of advance their career and help them cultivate deeper relationships within their work and within their intimate partnerships, which obviously is an area that I'm incredibly and deeply passionate about. So that's a little bit about how I got into doing what I do.
Yeah, very cool. And Dim, give us your spiel.
Look, long story short, Sammy, and I really love, by the way, that you said human beings and human doings. Like that, I think that's really beautifully observed. Look, for me, exec summary is between ages 14 to 21, I was experiencing like suicidal depression on and off. And this is before, I don't think there was even YouTube, or maybe YouTube came out when I was about 17, 18. There was not that many resources other than like literal textbooks on this type of stuff. I really feel like, to be honest, like that I was saved by angels, like to have made it through like such a, that period. And for me, because of that early kind of the galvanizing force that does, it got me curious about personal development, because it was like the one thing that seemed to have answers where no one else did, or I was kind of afraid to talk to anyone else anyway. And I think that's really where I got exposed to it initially. Then after my time in the army, I was in corporate for 8 years, and halfway through corporate, I couldn't take it. I was like super unfulfilled, and I actually left one day after submitting this huge project that you're supposed to be super. You feel
Pumped.
supposed to be so accomplished by, and instead of feeling accomplished, I just felt like so empty. And that day, after the 6 months we had delivered it, I got to work on the Monday, and I was like, I couldn't lift a pen, because I was just like, whoa, this is supposed to be a high point in my career, and instead I feel like so empty. I was like paralyzed at my desk pretty much the whole day, couldn't move. I didn't pick up a pen. The only thing I did do was I booked sick leave for the week, and I booked an Airbnb in the northern beaches, and I just went there and zenned out for a week. And when I got back, I was like, you know what? I've got to start to listen to like my inner voice. It's the only thing I've got. and I actually quit my job. I didn't have another one or anything like that. And I went to Africa, and I kind of just went soul searching. And during that time, a lot of answers came to me via The Power of Now, Awaken the Giant Within, all of the, like The Way of the Superior Man, all The Alchemist, like all these great books that we know. And so when I got back, I started to share that on my Instagram, just out of a way to help people, my lessons. And people started to come to me organically for guidance, because I was projecting that. And before I knew it, I ended up leaving corporate to do it full time.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Very cool. It must be an interesting dynamic where the two of you are both busy hustling and building your own little empires.
Oh my gosh,
Oh.
I feel like people don't talk about this enough.
Well observed.
It is so hard, and we're both
Well
fairly new to the space that we're operating in, and the first year is brutal. Your
First year in a relationship is brutal. First year in a business is brutal.
So,
and
we're
we
doing
do at the same time.
and
Well
so
observed.
that was challenging in so many different parts to the journey that we've been on. And challenging. And it's also challenging because we never want to mix our relationship and our business life into one another, because the way that I operate within my business and how I operate and show up in my business is very different to how I choose to show up in my relationship. And that's for a very important reason, because otherwise we'd be butting heads, or I just feel like I'm on it, like I need to do this and I need to do this, and I'm in boss mode, so I just need to get shit done. Whereas that doesn't work in the relationship. And so
your human doing is not human beings, as you said, Sammy.
That was a huge challenge. And then compounded was the arduous journey of trying to set up a thriving coaching business and operating in a space which is highly competitive and saturated, and trying to figure out your special space and how you can serve your people. It was incredibly challenging and still continues to be. But yes, it's also incredibly wonderful and helpful, because we speak the same language and we know what the other one is struggling with. And so I would say
definitely there's
I
benefits
used
and
to,
drawbacks,
and I still do on occasion, try to help Dim with his business. But the biggest help that I have, and you used to do that with me, but the biggest help that we've realized is not the strategy or the tactics or anything like that. It's just being like, you're doing such a good job. I love you. Like, if you need any help,
You've got this.
No, yeah. And it's just sincerely being there as a friend, not as a business advisor.
Yeah, I love that differentiation. Yeah, knowing when to be the cheerleader versus the coach.
Yes.
So you're obviously going through this massive building period through that honeymoon stage of your relationship. So how do you keep that honeymoon stage alive? Like, what have you been doing to keep that fueled up?
That's a nice question. I think for us, we're actually like not attached to the honeymoon phase, because when we first got together, people were like, oh, you guys are just in the honeymoon period, and then 6 months went by and like, yeah, that's the honeymoon period. And then 1 year went by and yeah, that's just the honeymoon period, and it seems like the honeymoon period's never ended, I think the key is we don't live in a fantasy of what things should be like. Like we just love each other, and we just like work with each other, and we accept each other. And so sometimes like it's going to be hard. And we always strive on social media to do everything we can to project exactly like the real image, though it's very hard on social media, like no matter what, to do that. I do think the key is don't be attached to the honeymoon period. Rather, at the end of the day, did you choose them or not? Like, okay, you've chosen them, you want to be with them. Okay, in that case, then you've got to love them, you've got to accept them, you've got to work with them. And I think that approach, though it doesn't sound as rosy, ends up with quite rosy outcomes.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
It's a more evergreen approach, is it?
It's totally evergreen. It's seeing the person for who they truly are versus who you wish they would be, want them to be, wish they didn't do this side. It's going, you know what? Everybody has their really positive traits and attributes, and then they have their things that they need to be working on. And nothing's better or worse. It just is. And that's the completed and full package of this human being. And I choose this human in his wholeness, not parts to him, all of him. And that includes his days where he's feeling really down and really shit and he's whatever. And he chooses me in my days where I'm really grumpy and I'm really whatever, easily aggravated. And we just choose to be there for one another and choose that love on a continual basis. And I think that's one of the best things that I think we've approached is we're always having conversations about, you know what, when things are getting tough and we need to have a conversation about something, it's not about you. It's not like I'm not getting angry at you. I'm getting angry at the behavior, or I'm getting upset by the behavior.
It's not the character. It's like, don't question the character, don't question the intent, but you have every right to question the behavior.
And so it's always with so much love and appreciation and respect that we go about these differences and navigating those differences. And I think that's been incredibly empowering for the both of us. And so over time,
I think we always fight to do that. Like as in it's because it's really hard. Like it's really hard when, you're both stressed out or you're burnt out or whatever. And there's, there's protocols for that too, to help you be in a better state, because, Tony Robbins' relationship mastery, kind of the whole thing is state is everything. And like state management, you got to do as much as you can within, your remit to be in the best state possible. And so even though in those tough conversations, like it is challenging and it is extra effort to be patient and, to be us against the problem. I think I really appreciate that about us. Like we really fight to, even if we're tired and we need like a few minutes out, or we need we need to take a break for a minute. We really fight to proactively
resolve everything.
Yeah, we don't put things under the rug.
I think one of the biggest things is that Dim taught me, which has just been phenomenally helpful, is that as soon as an issue arises, doesn't matter if it's a really minor, tiny little issue, we address it and we resolve it there and then, which can be annoying at some stages because it's like, well, it's at 11 p.m. I want to go to bed. I'm really tired and cranky from the day, and we have to have this conversation to resolve our things. But I recognize that is such a powerful practice because
you don't want to go to bed on an argument.
It means that we are always emotionally clear. Like we don't have anything between us. Like we're good. And I think in other situations, other couples may perhaps allow these smaller issues just to build under the surface, up and up and up. And those things are insidious. Those small issues that seemingly aren't that important, well, actually really does affect people long term. And those small issues eventually turn into the bigger issues. So I think that's one of the biggest things, is just like continually proactively addressing those small issues as soon as they arise, and always choosing love for that person. I'd also offer a tactical thing.
Yeah, bring the tactics.
As I was sharing earlier, I have a very different almost energy in my work versus my energy in my relationship. Yeah. And so I've literally defined and created language around that. So to the point that in my business, I show up as Anastasia. And Anastasia represents that boss woman. She is, executes on things. She gets shit done. She's super confident. But Anastasia at home doesn't really work in a relationship. So what does really work, and what Dim is amazing at eliciting within me, is my persona of Annie, and Annie's super feminine, she's soft, she's playful, she's silly, she has fun. And, I know if I'm showing up in the relationship as Anastasia, then it's on me to really let my work go and let that energy go, because at the end of the day, the most important thing in my life is 1,000% my relationship. And I can't just be go, 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 like doing. I need to be with him. And so I've really created that context shift, and that served really powerfully, because I do notice in my work I tend to be more masculine, and obviously in my relationship, femininity is really important. So yeah, that's something that I've been working on a lot.
I love that. And that, I think that is a really tactical thing. I know that I worked with a coach, and one day I mapped out Sammy as the wife, as the friend, as the daughter, as the sister, and all of the different, I guess, roles that I played, and, the boss and the leader and all of those things. And I did really reflect on the energies that I wanted to bring to those, I guess, effective roles or parts of who I was, and whether or not I had been carrying I guess the energy that I had at work into my relationships with my friends, and whether or not that was the right energy that I wanted to be bringing. And as soon as I had that increased awareness, it, like you mentioned, it was like, oh, okay, that makes so much more sense why I've been struggling with this one thing at home, because I've actually been bringing the wrong energy. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
I also want to circle back to, there was a couple of things that you said in there, Dim, that I really, really loved. And I feel like we just breezed way too fast past it because it was just gold. You said, I want to love with her. I want to work with her. I think that's something that we don't talk about enough. It's like that deep love, but also a commitment to working on ourselves and our relationship always. And that's a big premise of the podcast, is that, what would happen if we continued to date ourselves and our special someone forever, and actively did that. The other thing was that you talked about when conflict occurs, that it's the two of you versus the problem, not the two of you versus each other. And I think that's such a beautiful differentiation when it's not. We're both on the same team. We're both trying to get this thing resolved and work out how we can be better.
It's us against the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that idea that I think somebody's probably said this, it's probably a famous quote of someone, but it's like problems are like mushrooms and they grow and they fester in the dark. Whereas as soon as you shine a light on them, they dissolve and they disappear and they stop growing.
Great.
So I really like that you've shared that and said, we won't go to bed. We're going to deal with it now. We're going to shine the light on it and dissipate and I guess avoid it turning into a bigger problem or a bigger mushroom.
Yeah, definitely. On top of that, Sammy, I think it really does start with us having a hard look in the mirror and going like, okay, what do I really value in my life? And what are my top 3 values? And I think something that Anna and I both are united on, we more or less have the same top 3 values. Like the priorities of them may be different, but they are the same. And I think that what people see is actually a reflection of the fact that we are living in accordance to our highest values. And one of those is relationship. And like for me, I call it family. For Anna, she calls it relationship. And for that reason, like because I know this is what fills my cup. Like I've had a good look in the mirror and I know this is what I value and this is what fills my cup and makes me happy and fulfilled. And I know that time with Anna is in that. So I think with the clarity that comes with like having a good look in the mirror and knowing this is actually important to me, that enables me to, even when you're tired, enables me to go, nah, look, I want to like resolve this. And I think the other thing that enables it is that Anna and I have, I guess, made that commitment for each other. Like it takes 2 to tango at the end of the day. Like even if I really wanted to do it, at the end of the day, if she didn't come, like it wouldn't happen. So I think we both have realized like how important it is to honor these principles. And I think that's why it works so well.
And I think we both agreed, even very early on in our dating days, that we would prioritize our relationship above all else. That, business,
I think we should talk about
almost can wait. If there's something that's an immediate concern, there's a big problem, Dim's not feeling well, I'm not feeling well, the relationship trumps all else. And until that relationship issue is resolved, then everything else is on pause. And I think that's been a really empowering
Making
thing.
that decision has provided so much clarity, I think.
Like, I feel like I've felt that so strongly that I'm Dim's number one priority. And that gives me this certain confidence and feeling of security that I get with Dim that I've never experienced before, and I feel like is incredibly valuable. And I'm not entirely sure if couples perhaps give that to each other enough, where it's like, you know what, I know I'm busy, I know I'm got this going on, but you're the most special person in my life. And that's not to say take advantage of it and do whatever. It's like when things are really, really critical, everything else you put aside and you focus on one another.
And I think a simple tactic that we can offer here is we just use like a rating system. So we say, how important is it to you out of 10? And whether you're talking about business or like a relationship issue or something that she wants to talk about, because I just know, like, if it's kind of above a 7, then it's really important. And that also makes us be conscious about, oh, no, it's cool, I can wait. I'm at peace waiting, with X, Y, Z. And so it's a really cool little communication hack that I think we use.
Yeah, we love this concept of like using your values as a compass as well. And so we sort of went through the exercise of working out individually what our values are, and then collectively going, these are the values that we share together, and these are our relationship values, and using that as a compass to really drive our relationship in the right direction too.
Yeah, and sometimes when we've got stuck on decisions where we're not sure whether or not we should say yes to something or spend money on something or invest in something, and I say invest in the sense of, time, money or energy, if a problem is worth solving, and then we go, okay, well, come back to our values, is that going to give us more of this particular value or less? And sometimes even just asking that question helps you make a decision and go, okay, well, is that friendship or that relationship or that network, is that in alignment with one of our core values? Like, yes, we should say yes to that, or no, that's going to give us less of what we want or what we say we want in life. So I love how you're using values in your relationship, and then you're providing that, I guess, hierarchy and saying, this is really important to me, and therefore I'm going to show up and behave like it's really important to me. It's one of the reasons that our tagline is better relationships will equal a better world, because Nathan and I both really fundamentally believe that if everybody had incredible relationships with their friends, with their family, with their special someone, that the whole world would be better. You'd be able to show up more in your why. You'd be able to show up better with your other relationships. You can have a much bigger impact because you're not busy solving small communication or relationship problems. You can redirect that energy and solve some bigger ones. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Well
that
said.
Was beautifully
said.
I
swear, like that is like what drives us in the relationship coaching work that we do.
Yes.
Because it's just, I swear, like we have moments where just like, it's so good. Like I really appreciate it so much. I feel like I've been given a gift because I know, I've had so many things that didn't work out, and then the long-term things that I, girls that I was dating before, where I know how hard it can get, is what I'm trying to say. So like for that reason, I appreciate it so much, and like overall, like there's not all that much that we like issues that we have overall. So I think because of that extra energy, it's like you want to share it with others and help others.
Oh my gosh, it's so perfectly put, because a lot of people come to us perhaps with like a business concern or, a career thing. And then it's like, well, if you actually kind of scratch under the surface, often it's related to an issue in their relationship that's causing them to show up in a disempowered way in other areas of their life. And so once you kind of go back and resolve that root cause, and the relationship is always going to be a indication of how good you are, like internally, because that person is always going to act like a mirror to you. So if you are emotionally charged, if you're resentful, angry, that relationship is like an indication of where you're at. And so if you bring that energy elsewhere, you're not going to be performing at your highest, the best way that you possibly can. So resolving it at the relationship level is one of the greatest things that you can do. And as you said, redirecting that energy where it's no longer you're just bickering and having communication issues, that base is so solid that you can build upon that in other areas of your life. And I think as
Definitely.
Dim said, I'm incredibly grateful for what we have. And that's not to say we don't have arguments, we don't have challenges within our relationships. We certainly do. But I think it feels different. It feels different to anything that I've experienced before. It's like if we do have issues, we are really, really proactive and we try to resolve it as quickly as possible. And then we don't have these big challenged like values issues or like things that are ever making me question whether I'm in the right relationship or not.
So it sounds like the two of you are building a pretty incredible life for yourself. So how have you gone about, like, I guess, actively planning that and designing your future?
I love that question.
I think it starts with realestate.com, maybe.
Work backwards from there.
Yeah, no.
It's a scary place to start.
Yeah.
Something that we did 2 weeks into dating was we shared
Yes.
our relationship
I'm
vision.
glad to bring this up.
So it's like a relationship vision is something that we write about, which is like how we want to feel with this person, what we want to experience, who we want to serve as a couple. And so I shared mine and he shared his, and we were really intentional about what it was that we were getting ourselves into and whether or not we were aligned in our visions. So that was number one. And then I think a year down the line, or a year and a bit down the line, we ended up doing a vision exercise where it's like 5 years into the future, this is what we want. 10 years into the future.
And the key is
20
you do it
years into the
separately and then you share it together. So
Yeah.
you don't influence each other's things.
And again, I think that just reclaims your proactiveness and it brings intentionality to your future. So it's not like you're just going with the flow of things. It's like, okay, no, like we're a partnership. We should be really intentional with what we're designing in our future and ensuring that we're aligned as possible with one another as well. So we're not coming up against unnecessary resistance or we're butting heads on anything. So I think that was a really important exercise for us. And then was there anything
No, I'm
else?
so glad you brought it up,
Yeah.
Nathan. I think that separately we came up with our visions for what we were after.
Yeah.
And I think like number one, relationship vision, and then number two, I guess, long-term together vision. And I think coming to the table where we discuss it openly without any like attachment, I think like it wasn't like an argumentative frame. It was just like, look, why don't you share yours and I'll share mine?
Yeah.
And I mean, ultimately a vision is typically projected from your values. So I think that
That's a good place to start.
yeah, and I think that's why our visions like click together very well. So,
And that's not
and furthermore, on your point, one of those things that we were saying was, we were thinking of getting engaged in 2 years and then getting married in 5. And then we talked about that, and we talked about like why, and she was like, yeah, I'd really like that as well. She's like, yeah, because and for me, I'm like, well, I feel when we get engaged, like at least then we can illustrate the commitment to each other, and then we can concentrate on building our businesses and building our wealth and all that stuff. And then because otherwise it's another however many grand, 80 grand or something for a wedding. I don't know how much it is for a wedding these days, but I think it was open communication like that really helped.
It kind of reminds me of something though. We did have a big difference on one of our core things, which was the idea of the vision, and this was a few months ago, about the wedding, because I'm marrying an ethnic man who has very different cultural practices than I do, and that comes with a big extended family. I come from a Russian background, so my idea of a wedding would be like 50 people. And then
and if you know anything about a Sri Lankan, Indian, Italian, like these are like 300, 400 people weddings.
Which, was like, I don't know, like this is too much. And we were really challenged by that for a while because it was just in such conflict and such direct contrast to one another. But I think with something like that, it's just like, well, if it's important to him, then it's important to me. And I've got to play my part and do my work in order to be okay, or like at least come to a place where we both feel comfortable. And so, this is still an evolving conversation, but I feel so much less aggravated by the whole conversation. I feel like we've come to a really healthy place with it. And, I think that it's about accepting that there's not always going to be complete alignment and you're going to have to navigate those differences. But there's always a way to almost come to a place of synergy.
Yeah. Definitely.
where it's like you're not compromising or one person's sacrificing. It's coming to a place where both parties are really satisfied and you feel better for it, and you actually come up with a better solution than when you originally planned individually.
That's like a secret that I feel like we've accidentally stumbled across multiple times, where it's like it's happened a few times where you have these two opposing or alternate viewpoints, and I think because we've worked on no, I'm not going to try and muscle Anna, and Anna's not going to try and muscle me.
Mm-mm.
And it's actually just going well, underneath me saying, oh, I want this, what does Dim really want, and I talk about those factors, and Anna does the same, and we come from this open kind of round table almost, where we're putting these you break it down and you put the elements on the table, and when you do that from that open space, the creativity comes for like a more synergistic answer, which you and her will enjoy. And it's, if a compromise was like a horizontal level,
Yeah, meeting in the middle.
yeah, that's, if that was meeting in the middle, synergy would be
Meeting at the peak.
meeting at the peak.
Yeah,
Well
that's
said.
beautiful. And I think it's about not being
Creating a peak.
attached to being right or having the better solution, and it's about almost letting go of the ego and being like, well, what can I learn, what can I discover from this person, and how can we create that synergy that wasn't there? And that requires a lot of consciousness and a lot of like presence to the fact that you're going to want to have all of these attachments to your version of what success might look like, but you've got to be open to being with someone and choosing to be open to them, because that's a really, really important part. If you always just say, I'm right, I'm better, I'm whatever, that's no way to love somebody.
Yeah, but I really like the probing question of like, well, why do I want this thing? Well, why do I think it should be that way? And what do I really want? Is it somewhere a couple questions deeper? I really love that.
Even Sammy, like with, like, let's say it's traditional, like, like the real need inside is, I want to keep up with the traditions. So then by doing that, then you can ask the question, well, how can we still observe the traditions or respect the traditions while also integrating this thing? And it creates these really beautiful, like, fusionistic answers. Anna said to me, like, because my parents are obviously like quite traditional. Anna initially was like, I think she saw a wedding on Instagram or something, and she was like, wow, their little bubbas,
Little babies.
their little babies are being the flower boy and flower girl, right? And typically, in the culture that I've come from, you wouldn't want to have babies before marriage. And Anna's like, I really would love if we could have little bubbas, being our flower girls,
Like our babies,
doing the flower kids. And then I really thought about what she was after, and I'm like, I think that's actually quite a nice idea as well.
But initially, you were a bit like, why don't you understand my culture, or like a little bit?
But I think we didn't have a big
we
one
didn't
about
have
that
a thing.
one.
But initially, we were like, wait, what?
Yeah, and I think what I realized when we're talking it out was we can still observe the culture in that we can still do a wedding here, but maybe we can renew our vows in 5 years. And in that one, we can actually have the little kids as the flower boy and flower girl.
And I was like,
that's
perfect. That's great.
Then you get both, and that would be a like win-win.
Exactly, the win-win.
exactly
a compromise.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Nathan and I are big fans of the renewing of vows. We did ours at 5 years. And I'm already planning to do. We're about to have our
10th as well.
We're about to have our 8th wedding anniversary, and I've already got seeds of ideas for what I want to do for our 10-year wedding renewal. If the borders are open, I'd love to do it in Vegas. So we'll see.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Guys, so we've talked a little bit about, I guess, like dating forever and, really loving life and being quite intentional about what we do. And then we talked quite a lot about being the change and taking accountability for what you have influence over. But for us, Be the Change is also about being the change that you want to see in the world. So to say thank you for joining us today, we have provided a week's worth of classroom education in Borneo. And the catch about this is that it's for girls. It's quite common in Borneo for just boys to get to go to school. So this scholarship really helps make an impact and helps girls get a further education, which has an incredible ripple effect. This project's looked after by Friends of National Parks Foundation, and we've given via B1G1. So thank you so much for making that possible.
Wow.
Thank you.
What an incredible initiative. thank you for our involvement in that. We're honored.
Thanks for your invitation for us to be involved.
Yeah, and that's an incredible initiative that, just thank you. Yeah, we really appreciate that.
Thank you.
It's our pleasure. So if our listeners have really enjoyed what you've been talking about today or want to learn a little bit more about you, how should they do that?
So they should go on Instagram. I think that's the most active platform that both Dim and I are on. So I am Anya, ANYA _ Bezuglova, BEZUGLOV for Victor, A.
Rolls off the tongue.
And then Dim.
And mine's is Dim Hapa. So whether it's on Instagram or Facebook, you can just type in DIMHAPA, Dim Hapa, and I come up on either of those platforms.
Perfect. And if people have loved, the two of you as a dynamic, is there some other way that they can work with you or connect with you, or what else can they do with you?
Yeah, so we've actually recently gone into couples coaching, and we're launching our first group coaching program for couples called Relationship DNA, which is all around shifting the communication practices that you may have in the relationship, the emotional issues, and sort of resolving them in a really empowering way so that you can re-spark the chemistry, the love, and the passion. And it's over a 4-week program. We will be individually leading. I'll be leading the ladies. Dim will be leading the men's side. And then we also have a weekly component where we'll be doing couples Q&A. So the intent is to really create a highly supportive environment for the couples who choose to work alongside us, and giving them as much sort of, encouragement possible as they create this incredibly new dynamic in the relationship.
Empowerment, and helping them understand. And I think a big reason that we got into that is because we were doing, one-on-one, or, I just work with men and I just works with women. And she was just having more and more women coming, asking for help with the relationship. And often their man would become my client, or vice versa. And it's really fulfilling.
So
it's
cool.
really fulfilling.
I think that's that is our most fulfilling area that we work in, because
especially when it involves kids as well, and you see this beautiful impact.
And I think seeing the woman, and then seeing the man, and then seeing the new relationship that they've been able to establish over the course of however long they choose to work with us,
because
is so cool.
They're usually always good people, and they're really trying. They you can see it. You can see that they're like they have this pure intention, but they're not getting through, and so it's heart-rending, but it's also beautiful and very fulfilling to help.
It's like what we were saying before. It's like when you're able to heal the relationship, everything else becomes easier and more fulfilling and more enriched. And so it's a beautiful thing to be able to do, to help people come closer and deepen that love and appreciation for one another.
Very cool. I'm excited to see what you two create together as your first program collaborating. It's very cool.
Thank you.
Hey, so before we call it, I would love to know if there's one daily or weekly practice that you would recommend for couples who are in that early stage. What's something that they can do to help, keep their relationship really fueled up?
I think we both know what to say, don't we?
Yeah, but I think I'm going to add another one, but you say it first.
Well, all right, fine. So we got 2. So, what we did was it's a gratitude journal for couples.
I was going to say that as the second one.
Okay. So
I thought you were going to say date night.
I love you.
Okay, great.
Oh, okay. Date night's good, but gratitude journal. It really helps. So the way we did it was you can make like a Google shared document or an Apple shared notes or whatever. And all you do is, and you make sure you just do it diligently every week. Put up a photo, or like whenever you have like a lovely date night or something or whatever,
or an
together. Put up a photo of it, and you write a little caption on it, and it's just like a beautiful journal of memories of your relationship. And especially when times get hard and your brain's flipped to thinking about like, oh, she did this and she did this and she did this. It's a really good pattern interrupt to like look at this gratitude journal and be like, you see the other side, and you're like,
stuff's good. The big picture's good.
It just reinforces the positive traits in that person, and you start to really just appreciate them so deeply, and it almost allows you to let go very quickly about the negative, because you're like, oh, it doesn't even matter, look at the other side of things. And it's such a beautiful thing
so important
to look back to. We have it pages and pages of this gratitude
like
journal.
to the point that it starts to freeze up.
Yeah.
Like,
Need version 2.0.
Yeah.
And it's such a gorgeous tool that we always come back to, and just has captured these moments that we've shared together. They're not all like big over the top moments, just simple moments where it's like either like I'm waking up and I'm looking into his eyes or whatever.
I think this is a
be.
bigger secret than people realize, because the thing is, our brain is built to see problems like for survival way more than it is built to feel fulfilled or grateful. And so you gotta, and like one thing Anna and I have separately done is like gratitude meditation every morning. So like we overall have like literally trained our brain to be appreciative people.
Especially in the early stages of a relationship, where you tend to do things a little bit, how would you say, a bit differently. Like you're more engaged and perhaps spending a little bit more energy than when you're 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line. And it's really great to capture that of the blueprint of what exactly you were doing, whether it was buying her flowers or
Cheeky
making coffee in the
or
morning,
whatever.
or those small little practices that after a certain period of time spending, familiarity kicking in, you become a little bit more complacent. You're able to go back and go, oh, that's right. That's the things that I was doing. And that's the mindset that I had toward the relationship. And that's the cute note that I would write her, or whatever it may look like. And it's a really, really powerful practice to go back to.
Definitely.
I love this so much. The thing that really landed for me in that was about creating the blueprint. And it's like, you've already had a successful, thriving relationship at some point, and this is the behaviors, these are the actions that we were doing at that time. I love that, because it's not, you're not trying to bring something new. You're just trying to remind yourself of this muscle memory that you've already once done. I love that. What was the other one? That was number one. What was the other?
I thought he was going to say date night. So we're uncompromising about our date night. We have 2 per week.
We have more than that. Like, no, I mean,
but 2 special ones.
But two uncompromising ones.
Uncompromising ones that, we've got a set time. We've got at the exclusion of everything else. And it's often we go out, we take...
Well, yeah.
It's starting.
It's time. We're eating into your date night.
It's quite all right. Thursday 7:30.
It's okay.
Is one of
We're
them.
having
Saturday
a double date night tonight. For us, we have not missed
uncompromising
a date night.
Yeah.
We haven't missed date night unless someone's been away on Thursday, on Saturday for the past.
We haven't missed it. And I think the key is uncompromising is the key, because it reflects your commitment. So you can't get in the habit of breaking them. And what it does is it gives you that present time with them where you are together and your phones are away and you're consciously taking the time to be with that person.
And it's so fun. Like, it's just so fun knowing, like, oh my God, it's date night. Like, I wake up on Thursday morning and I'm like, it's date night.
We even still do it now.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I still get the butterflies with him, like, I'll be like, he dresses up and he'll put on his cologne, and I just it takes me back to those summer days when we were falling in love, and I'm just like, oh my God, it's Tim.
So good. I really liked that you described it as uncompromising. That's I often reflect on this. It's like sporting teams, they get together 1 or 2 nights a week to practice, and then they have game day on Saturday. And I think, like, you're in a relationship and you are a team. You have to carve out that time, like in the same way that you would make a commitment to, your sporting partner or your team partner or your business partner. You can't possibly expect to rock up to the game on Saturday and play well if you haven't carved out that time for training.
Mm-hmm.
Well said.
And otherwise you're spending time that's perhaps not high quality time, and that just doesn't feel nourishing for the relationship. And so being really intentional and being like, this is our time. This is time present for the relationship. It is so, so rejuvenating and great for the soul.
I love that.
You too. Congratulations again on the recent engagement, and thank you so much for joining us today.
So fun. Thank you for having us.
Such a pleasure. Thank you.
Such a pleasure.
Thanks heaps for joining us. If you love what we're doing here and want more, subscribe to the Date Forever podcast to make sure you never miss an ep. Come and hang out with us and other awesome couples who are fueling up their relationships in the Thriving Couples Collective Facebook group, or check us out at fuelcollective.com.au. Until next time, keep on dating, because better relationships equal a better world.